two children were exchanged at birth, and after 16 years, they'll be able to meet their biological parents, but their parents have hidden plans for their children. This is the story of Nagi, an ordinary boy who turns out to be poor. Today, he's going to meet his real biological parents. Despite all of this, he wants to continue with his studies. Nagi's sister is sad because she didn't want her brother to go with a different family. He explains that he's only going to see his birth parents, and when that happens, life will be as usual, so there's nothing to worry about. Returning home from the institute, he looks at a girl who's standing on the bridge. Like a good macho man, he went ahead and saved her. But the girl gets upset because her video was ruined. It turns out that she was not planning on jumping. The girl's name is Erika, and she explains that her parents had forced her to marry someone she didn't know, and she was looking for an excuse not to marry him. Erika asks for our protagonist's name, and once he tells his name, he also tells Erika that he studies at a very prestigious school called Mugurogawa. As soon as she hears that, she gets excited because only those who are very smart could go to that school. It is here when she gets an idea, as she doesn't want to get married. She tells Nagi that she has to pretend to be her boyfriend. Since he's a prestigious student, her parents for sure will break up her marriage. That was Erika's strategy, but Nagi says he doesn't want to be a part of this, and he leaves. So she decides to show him the video that she had recorded of him. It turns out that when Nagi saved her, he touched her breast. So Erika tells him that if he doesn't help her, she will spread out the images on social media. At this point, Nagi has no other choice but to cooperate. They take some photos and pretend to be a couple and deliver the evidence and hope their marriage is cancelled. The father sees the photos and does not believe a single thing. On the other hand, some boys are very upset with Nagi. It turns out that Erika was an influencer. Those boys were her fans, and they couldn't stand that she was dating someone. Nagi was no coward and ends up facing them. His parents had showed him how to defend himself, so Nagi beats the crap out of those guys. After seeing this fight, Erika understands one thing, that she just needs to beat her fiancé to break off the marriage, just like Amber. Here's when they say goodbye because they had important business to do. Later on, Nagi meets his biological parents. The conversation was quite pleasant. The parents did not want to lose communication. In order to be close to their biological son, they came with the conclusion that he had to get married. The funny part is that the person he had to get married was Erika. I know, what a coincidence. Worst of all, Erika had sent the pictures to her father, showing that Nagi was his boyfriend, so they couldn't refuse the marriage. The next day, while they were having breakfast, Nagi had the courage to tell his parents that he didn't want to get married. His parents said that they will hit him if he doesn't accept the marriage. The parents went off to work, and before leaving they tell him that his fiancé will come to visit him. So he was worried and starts cleaning up the house. Erika was late, so wondering what happened, he goes looking for her, and when he leaves the house he finds Erika waiting. She was waiting for an hour for someone to receive her. He tells them to come in. Let's remember that Erika is a rich girl and has a hard time adjusting to commoner things, and this place was a different world for her. She asks to be shown around the house, but Nagi tells her that they are inside. She thought that this place was a warehouse. So Nagi proceeds to show her the place where he lives, and this was very small and narrow, and Erika didn't feel comfortable, so she asked Nagi to walk her home. Here is where our protagonist is very surprised when he sees the house, or palace in this case. He thinks that this girl is completely rich, and even the dogs had their own house. Nigga, what the f? They sit down to have coffee. Erika tells him that she doesn't want to marry him, and what she wanted to do today was to talk to Nagi's parents and tell him to give up the marriage. Nagi explains that her parents work in a restaurant, and if she wants to go meet them, he can take her. Arriving at the restaurant, Erika is very expressionless, when all of a sudden she explodes and starts making a mess. But all of this was Nagi's imagination. None of that had actually happened. Nagi's parents are happy that they have been able to come visit, and they treat him with great affection. She was his son's fiancée and was also their biological daughter. I know at this point I am as lost as you. Those parents do not stop praising how beautiful their son's girlfriend looks. They are treating her as if she was their lifelong daughter. Erika didn't tolerate the way they were talking to her and ran out of the restaurant. Nagi was worried and ended up following her. He asked why didn't she mention anything about breaking up the marriage. So she tells him that she was afraid that his parents will hate her for breaking up the marriage. Nagi tells him that his parents are understandable people and that she shouldn't be afraid, so he asked her to go back to the restaurant. After returning, the mother receives them with a warm hug. This time, Erika was able to enjoy the food with her biological parents. All this was heard by Nagi's sister, and she didn't know what to do. It was getting dark and Erika had to go home, so Nagi's parents asked him to take her because it was getting dangerous. Along the way, Erika says she couldn't tell his birth parents to call out the wedding. Erika's father arrives and thanks Nagi for making his daughter enjoy the day. His father is very happy that his daughter has a good relationship with Nagi, so the father has a surprise for them. He asks them to get in the car and then they arrive to a house. The father explains that from now on they will live in this place. This will only be for 2 weeks. This surprises the protagonist. The father had left them in the house. Erika seems to be more calm in this place because she says that her father always gets away with it, and then she just goes to sleep. Nagi's parents send a text message wishing him good luck in his new life. Erika says that there shouldn't be any conflicts and that each one should go their own way and they shouldn't interfere with each other's lives. In this new house, he had a peace that he did not have in the previous one. It is here when they reveal to us the objective that Nagi has to study so hard, and it is to surpass a classmate. He always came in second, so he wanted to come first. Once he wins, he will confess his love to her. The life that this couple had in this house was different. Even though they said they wouldn't interfere in each other's life, they always ended up interacting. Our protagonist was desperate to study. His home was far away from this place, so he had no choice but to borrow Erika's book, but she said that she would lend him the books if he helped her take good pictures. He didn't want to miss a day of study, so he had no other choice but to obey. After taking so many photos, Erika asked Nagi why was he obsessed with studies. He replies that one day he would like to stop being poor and take care of his parents. Nagi was also curious though and asked Erika why she was obsessed with uploading pictures to her social media. Erika says that she's looking for a person and wants to be as visible as possible for that person to find her. Nagi asks for details, but she doesn't want to tell him anything else. The day went by quickly and Nagi couldn't study. Worst of all, Nagi's things had arrived in the morning but Erika didn't tell him. The next day, Nagi went to class and while going through his things, he found a letter. It seems that it was from the girl that he likes. Within classes, the teacher informs that Nagi for the first time had surpassed his greatest enemy. Her name was Segawa. In the afternoon, they had met. Nagi thought that the girl he liked would finally confess to him, but it was the complete opposite. She says that she won't lose in her studies and to get ready because she will study a lot more, leaving with a straight face. Nagi had accepted the challenge, so he promises himself that he won't lose to Segawa. But how fucked up is destiny? The same night he gets sick and has to be rescued by Erika. She tells him that if he wants to get good grades, he must also worry about his health. In the following week, Nagi won again, and then he was invited once again to meet with Segawa. The reason for this new meeting was that Segawa wanted to know the truth of why he tried so hard to get good grades. And why did he want it to be in first place? Nagi doesn't want to miss this opportunity, so he tells her the truth. The day they met, Segawa had said that she will only date someone smarter than her. Now that Nagi has served his purpose of being the first, he confesses his love for her, hoping that she will go out with him. She says, don't get your hopes up, this is the second win of many, and in order for him to be considered better than her, he will have to win multiple times. Segawa says that she won't lose again, but Nagi also replies that he will be the first place in everything until one day she agrees to be her boyfriend. Segawa felt alive for the first time in her life, but she says that she can't be his girlfriend because she's already engaged. Later, Nagi was curious to know who Segawa was engaged to when he was interrupted by Erika. She informs him that today is their last day living together. Nagi gets a little sentimental, but before leaving, he tells her that these 2 weeks he had a great time with Erika. Before leaving, Nagi thanks the house for taking him in, although Erika says that it's absurd to thank an object. He had come home but his parents were not inside, so he gives them a call to find out why no one was home. They inform him that the plumbing in the house was bad and they had to go live somewhere else. They rented an external room which there was no more space, so they tell his son to figure it out and they hang up the call. Nagi has no choice but to go back to the house that he just left, meeting Erika again. He thought that she had gone to his mansion. She says that she could not return because she wanted to experience an independent life on her own. Nagi wants to give her some advice so she learns a little, but he realizes that she was useless in these cases. The next day, Nagi's sister will be visiting, so he tells Erika to get ready, because today she'll meet her blood sister. Shortly after she arrives, her name is Sachi. The two girls do not greet each other. They are super nervous and did not say anything. Nagi was worried, so they had no choice but to do some activities together. He offers that they should prepare food together. During the activities, the girls still don't talk to each other, but at lunchtime, they realize that they have a lot in common. Erika understood that even though they don't know each other completely, they could still get along and enjoy some things together. She invites Sachi to her room to try some clothes together. The two of them looked so pretty that Erika couldn't help but to give her her dress. They took a picture to remember this day. The following night, Sachi saw the photo and she was happy because she had made a new friend.